Hi there. I'm your host, Corinne, and this is Okay, But Are You Good? Where we check in on ourselves on a weekly basis to see how we doing. Are we surviving and not thriving, or we're thriving and not surviving? Hopefully that makes sense. Anyways, this week's episode, we're going to talk about how you feel like no one can hear what you're saying. You contribute to the conversation and your words just fall flat and they disappear. Like your thoughts don't land, your feelings don't register. Maybe it's at work, at school, with your family and relationships. Or maybe it's just how you're feeling overall. And you're thinking, why is no one hearing what I'm saying? I'm speaking English. If this hits you, you're not alone. And this week we're going to talk about it. Let's start with how this shows up. Like you're in a group project, you contribute to it, and you get no replies. And then it's 10 minutes later and you got Billy Bob saying the same thing that you said and everyone thinks they're a genius. Or maybe you're in a conversation with your friend and you open up about something that's been bothering you and they tell you like, that's not a big deal. You're being too dramatic. Why did you react that way? When really you're just upset about something and you're being vulnerable in that moment. You may leave that conversation feeling like, oh, should I not have said that? Am I doing too much? Should I just like not talk ever? Over time, these moments build up and you start to doubt yourself and you don't want to feel like you have too big of emotions and you're weighing too heavy on other people. When I feel like my voice isn't being heard, I dial it down. I totally shut down. And then people are like, are you mad? Why aren't you talking? And it's like, no, you just told me I'm being too much, or you're not giving me any reply. So why would I keep talking? I have so many moments in my life where I feel like I've been right about something and it was completely ignored. I'm literally telling you, I can't show up to this thing. My allergies are bugging me. And then you ask me the next day to come babysit. I just told you I literally can't breathe around in your house and you want me to show up? Or I've given someone a warning before and be like, hey, you shouldn't hang out with this person. Weeks pass by and they're like, yeah, they screwed me over. And I'm like, yeah, I told you that. I told you this is not a good person. I have so many moments in my life where I feel like I'm screaming from the rooftops and it's like everyone just can't hear me anymore. And it's so diminishing and it's so belittling. And yeah, I have a big personality, but why is that so bad? Why can't I have thoughts and opinions about something? Because I am correct in things. I have really good intuition, but I just feel so unheard, like, and so unimportant because you're not listening to what I'm saying. You just want me to be a little box and be a robot. We're done being robots. I want my voice to be heard. And I've said this before, you're not too much. You're not being too sensitive. You're not being dramatic. You're just around the wrong people that don't want to listen to you. But everyone deserves to be heard. You're not too big or too small in this world. And don't be around people that make you feel like that. And I get so emotional about this because I just want to be seen. I just want to be seen and heard for my voice and that I matter. You matter listening to this episode. You are important. And don't let anyone ever make you feel like you're not. Don't let anyone belittle you. Be your own advocate. Be your own superhero. And another thing to take away is when you are around people that hear you and are 100% zoned in and listening to you, give them that appreciation. Give them that 100% full attention back because no one's going to listen to you if you're not listening to them. It's a two-way street. And I am definitely a big talker, but I also listen and like maybe there's times I could be a better listener, but sometimes I'm just distracted with other stuff if I have a million other things going on. We're working on it. Everything's in motion and progress. Just be self-aware. But I think with the lack of listening for other people and ignoring other people's thoughts is like, you just don't care. You're selfish. And you're too focused on how is this conversation going to benefit yourself. And that's not fair to the person that's being vulnerable with you in that moment. You should care what other people have to say to you. And if you don't care what someone's saying, then maybe just really stop hanging out with them. Obviously, there's circumstances where you can't avoid other people, but you have to be kind. I think a lot of people have lost the plot of like, they're just so selfish nowadays. And yeah, there is times where you have to be, but the bare minimum is listening to someone else and not making them feel bad for having a voice. When you're constantly feeling like you're not being heard, it starts to feel personal, even if it's not. Even if the other person you're talking to literally genuinely doesn't mean it in a negative way at all. They're just like, they have their own stuff they got going through and they just can't listen to what you're hearing. But when it's the same person doing this constantly, it's so hard. You're just like, okay, well, I guess you don't care about me and you only care about yourself. When I feel like other people don't care what I have to say or how I'm feeling or what I'm going through, I shut down. I am a shell of myself. I'm not going to contribute to the conversation. I'm not going to hit you up. I'm not going to reply to you. I'm going to distance myself because I feel like I'm not important. And like, you don't care what I have to say. I'm giving you advice or just my opinion on something and you just totally don't care. It's not about being right or wrong about a situation. It's just feeling like you're being heard. And I feel like there's so many times in my life that no one cared what I had to say. And I might as well just like not have been in the room. Like I could have just been the wallpaper or something, you know? And that's really hard to come back from. But that's why I'm working so hard to be happy, to be a better person. And I know I'm already a good person, but I want to wake up and like in one of those Disney movies where it's all sunshine and rainbows all the time, even though like there's days where that seems like an eternity away, but you gotta keep going. I wake up every day to keep having my voice be heard. That's why I started this podcast, essentially, of like feeling like I have things to say and hoping that people want to hear them, you know? I'm not saying out there everyone needs to start a podcast. Maybe you just need to switch your environment up a little bit. But you have to be your own advocate. You have to set boundaries and be like, okay, maybe these people just don't care what I have to say. And you just kind of spend less time with them. And I've totally done that. These other people probably don't even realize that because they literally don't care how I'm doing, what's going on, what I have to say. And fine. I'm doing just fine without you, love. So what can we actually do to change this? You first need to start listening to yourself. Who would have thought? That's the first step, though. You got to listen to yourself, right? Because if you're not listening to yourself, definitely no one else is. You need to validate your own experience and in ways of like, this did hurt me. You do have feelings. You are important with what you have to say. Secondly, you need to start practicing your voice, even if it's uncomfortable. You need to get your thoughts, feelings out because it will just build up over time. That frustration of not being heard. And lastly, you need to really get intentional about who you're talking to. Not everyone in your life needs to know every little detail about yourself. And wow, I've learned that the hard way. I'm working on that. I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that because I'm the type of person, if you're in my life, you're going to know every little detail because I just like can't hold back. What's important is finding your people, finding your space, finding like your safe environment and speak up and not be apologetic about it. Not leave thinking like that was too much. They think I'm crazy. Or maybe I shouldn't have said that because you're surrounding yourself with people that you feel comfortable and safe with. This is your safe space. You want those people where you can give all the details if you want and not be like ashamed of it. And I definitely have those people in my life and I love them so much. But I've learned there's people in my life that don't get that honor of knowing everything that's going on. So let's talk about building your voice, finding your voice. Because if you've been quiet for a while, or if you've been dismissed, misunderstood over and over again, you may not trust yourself. You might think, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm the problem? What if I'm just going to mess this up again? But the truth is, you don't need to say it perfectly for it to matter. You don't need approval for your voice to be important. You don't need a crowd for it to be worth listening to. You're allowed to just speak because the topic's important to you. This project you're working on is important to you. The smallest thing of like, I got a great iced coffee. That's fine. Like, I think there is some people that don't need to know every single detail, but I got one of my best friends, she tells me what she got from the grocery store. No one else does that. And most people be like, I don't care what you got. But I was like, you know what? This makes her happy. I want to know what you got from the grocery store. You're just going to tell me anyways, whether or not I ask. But I kind of love that. I love those friendships where you just have really unimportant conversations. It doesn't need to be deep every single time. Because there's so much darkness in the world. So when you have these lighthearted conversations about silly little grocery lists, it lets you reset. It's like a little distraction. And I've learned like there's some people that talk as much as I do or even more. And like, I just kind of appreciate that. You can just like not think. You can turn your brain off and let them do the talking, let them, get whatever they got to get out. Because I feel like us over talkers talk so much because we didn't have our voice heard when we were younger. We weren't ourselves. We just felt like what we had to say, even if it's the smallest little important detail, was not being heard at all. So now I talk so much. I'm definitely working on like place and time, but sometimes I just get so excited and I want to tell you everything that's been going on in my life or what's been happening, especially with my friends I see never, Of course I'm going to talk a lot. What? Why do some people legit want you to shut up and just not do anything? That's so boring. I want to know what's going on in your life too. If you just give me a chance to listen, I think I literally just had this realization that I think the people that think like you're too much or you're talking too much, it's because they've never had a moment in their life where someone told them that, or they've always had their voice heard. They've never had that thought of like, this person doesn't care about me, this person, or I shouldn't have said that. They've never had that like thought, and bless them. I'm glad your voice has always been heard and you don't feel like you've ever felt diminished. I want to leave you with something. I want to remind you, your voice is not too much. Your thoughts matter. You are allowed to share with everyone or no one what you're thinking, your thought of something, even if it's something small or something really big. Don't shrink yourself to fit in someone else's small box or their perception of you. You're allowed to take up space. So if you've been feeling unheard lately, take a deep breath and remind yourself you hear you, and that's enough to begin again. This week, I want you to do something for you. Say something out loud, even if it's just in your car, in your room, written down in a journal. Say what you feel, what you need, and say it with no apology, with no regrets. Because your voice, it's not background noise, it's part of who you are. And as always, check in with yourself and ask, okay, but are you good? Thank you so much for listening in. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next week.